What's going on, you guys? Coach Dwayne here. So today I wanted to debunk the myth of being able to out-train your diet. A lot of people have failed trying to do this method, and millions of people will fail trying to do this method going forward. So I wanted to just come on here real quick. I wanted to tell you the reasons why I believe it's wrong. I wanted to also give you the truths that are within that myth, because there are some truths within it. And then I'm going to give you some best practices that you can take and apply in your everyday lives going forward. Right? So let's jump right on in. I believe the first reason why this myth is wrong, it's if you eat junk food, right? It contains a lot of calories, and it's easy to get the calories in and get them high when you're eating junk food, right? I just read a stat today that said one donut is going to give you anywhere between 200 and 540 calories, depending on the donut, right? So what that would mean for you to work out, it's you're going to have to be doing, for every mile that you run, that's going to be 100 calories burnt. So if you're doing 200 calories through a donut, that's 2 miles to 5 miles, depending on the donut, right? That leads me to point two. Point two is training that much, right? It's hard and it's going to take time, right? So if you're having an extra 1,000 calories a day because you had 5 donuts today, you're going to have to do 10 miles to be able to burn that off. And typically most people aren't going to either want to do 10 miles, right, or two, have the time to do 10 miles on a daily basis just by eating junk food, right? So that leads me to point three. Point three would be, it's wrong because I believe controlling your diet is not that hard, right? If you have to ask yourself the question, okay, do I want to have a donut or do I want to have to run 5 miles? Which one would you hate more? I'm sure that you taking not having a donut that day isn't as hard. But if you do have that donut that day, you have to go do your 5 miles. It's not as hard of a decision, right? Like, I wholeheartedly believe that running 5 miles is going to be much harder than saying no to one donut, right? And you know, you really want to think about it. Eliminating junk food is going to give you the ability to eliminate having to do 5, 10, 15 miles of cardio on a daily basis, right? So you cannot train your diet if you're having a lot of junk food. The last point that proves this myth wrong, it's the Ponzer's paradox. And what that says is, if you increase, let's say you have the willpower and you say, man, I'm going to do this cardio and I can't do this cardio. You start to increase your cardio output. You know, you go to the gym, you go on the treadmill, you do 2 hours worth of cardio. That's fine, that's great. But what will start to happen is there's this thing called the non-exercise activity thermogenics. It's called NEAT. And what that is, it's the calories that you burn on a daily basis just living your everyday life. You know, walking to your job, walking upstairs, taking out the garbage. What will start to happen is if your actual exercise calories are really high, your NEAT is actually going to start to drop to kind of counterbalance that, right? So let's say you increase your cardio output by 1,000 calories one day, your NEAT may drop from, you actually burning 1,000 calories down to like 500 calories, and it will start to even itself out, right? So just imagine, like, you go ahead and you go do an hour at the gym or 2 hours at the gym, and then it's garbage day, and your wife looks at you or your husband looks at you and says, babe, go take the garbage out. You're gonna be so tired that you're gonna be like, oh, babe, can you do it? And then the garbage that you would normally be taking out, you're not gonna take out. Or you may park a certain distance away from your job so you can walk a little bit to your job. You may park a little bit closer than you normally would. Your body will subconsciously do those things, right? So yes, you can increase the cardio, but then your body's gonna essentially start to regulate itself and drop the NEAT down, because you're going to just be so tired. So those are the reasons why I believe. So, like, even with the Ponzer's paradox, what it says is, even if you have the willpower to do those though that extra amount of work, cardio, working out, your body's going to eventually even itself out. So even willpower is going to get you to being successful with this principle, right? Or with this myth. There are some truths to this myth though, and I want to highlight them, right? The first one is at margins, right? So 10% at margins, eating more food can be done if you're more active, right? So you can take in an extra 300 calories and burn that off and it not really be an issue. But when you start to get to an extra 1,000 calories, 2,000 calories, the amount of work that you would have to do, it's not going to ever even out, right? It's not going to ever even out. So at margins, you can eat a little bit more if you're more active, right? But only at margins. The second truth that is in this myth, it's you can lose a ton of weight and fat by being on a very high activity level, right? But there's two caveats to that. First one is if you enjoy it, right? Because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. You're going to burn out and eventually stop. And the second one is you have to peel back a little bit on the junk food out of your diet. Those are the two. So you can lose that weight and fat by being on a very high activity level, but it has to be something that you enjoy doing, and it has to also be in conjunction with you doing your diet, with you peeling back on your diet a little bit. All right. The other truth that's in this myth is losing fat while moderate to high activity and eating plenty of foods is possible, but the foods that you're eating has to be low calorie and high quality foods, right? So it's not going to be junk foods, right? But you can lose fat with a higher amount of foods if your activity level is moderate to high, if the quality of foods are good, right? This is more sustainable, and it's actually healthier than just cutting down, a ton of calories and dieting super hard, right? So because when you diet super hard, your activity level is just gonna drop down as well, right? So I'm gonna give you guys my takeaways for you guys to use in your everyday life. When it comes to dieting or fat loss and weight loss, the number one thing that has to come first is your diet. And excuse me for being blunt here, but if you think that you can do it without addressing your diet at all, it's fucking stupid. It is. Like, let's just cut that now where we think that we can do it. It's you be doing that to your own peril and to your own frustration. Like, you'll just be frustrated more and more and more if you go with that thinking that you can eat whatever you want and just train to compensate for it. Your diet always has to come first, right? You want to make sure that your activity level is moderate to high when you're trying to lose fat and weight, right? Ideally, you want to try to be around 10 to 15,000 steps a day. That's kind of the sweet spot, right? So if you can get like the step tracker, 10 to 15,000 steps a day, that's a good amount, right? When trying to lose fat, you want to get in, you want to get it done, and you want to get out, right? So you just want to get the work done. You don't want to be there like for these marathon sessions. Get your work in and get out, right? But you must eliminate junk. You must eliminate junk, and you want to reduce your dietary fats, right? With fats comes more calories, right? So protein gives you 4 grams per calorie, right? 4 calories per gram. Same thing with carbs. Fats gives you 9 calories per gram. So you want to reduce your fats. What that will do is it will cause rapid changes, and then from there you can obviously start to like go with a maintenance program, right? So you want to cut your calories and your junks down early, and then get to the weight that you want to get to, and then you can start to normalize how you eat, right? You can move and eat more at margins, right? So if you want to eat an extra 200 calories that's fine, and you can move that extra 200 calories. But anything really above that, 300, 400, 500, it starts to become one of those things that we have to start to watch a little bit. Um, Eating is by far the more powerful option, right? Controlling the eating is definitely by far the more powerful option when it comes to weight loss, especially when you're talking about, high calorie dense foods, junk foods especially, right? If you can control that, you'll have much more success with your fat loss journey or your weight loss journey. All right. Coach Dwayne here from Fit by July. Don't tell nobody what you're going to do. Your actions, they're going to show true. Let's get ready to train, y'all.